So we'll be collecting the next few eggplants and doing another eggplant lasagna. We put those up. A lot of people are asking me how we storing a lot of our foods. I'll take something like our eggplant lasagnas along with our cucumbers. We'll mix all of that in with tomatoes and stuff like that, and we'll make us a nice eggplant lasagna. These are actually pretty good. The Armenian cucumbers, this is something that you want to grow, especially going into the hottest parts of the summer because these handle the heat very well. I have some straight eight cucumbers over here, and the straight eight cucumbers slow down when that heat comes in because they really don't do well in the hot sun. But because I have them tucked over here and I'm creating microclimates all around the garden, you see the bees are everywhere. They're loving this, the basil over here. But I create microclimates all around the garden so I'm able to grow certain things in certain times of the year that makes it kind of fit into the scheme of whatever it is I'm doing. But this bed here kind of grows wild. Got carrots mixed in on the bottom, so you can grow carrots all throughout the year. Basil, French marigolds. Considering that the bell peppers don't do as well in the heat, I have bells mixed into this bed over here, and then they're kind of getting a little diffusion with the basil going on it. So those are some of the things that I like doing, just playing with the microclimates and things of that nature. Now this here is one of my jewels. This is a black pearl. Now she has a Scoville unit of probably about 30 to 50,000, so it's a little less burned than a jalapeno, but it has a citrusy taste to it. Spirits Field Springs. Have I ever grown anything that wasn't recommended for my zone? Well, that's part of what I try to show when I'm growing. I try not to grow too far out of my grow zone, which makes it so much easier. So people think because I still have a full garden going, everything's still green around here. Part of that is because what I'm growing should be growing in my grow zone. So it's about being selective about the things that you're growing. Like coming over here, contender beans will go up until 100 degrees. So I'll succession plant these. We just harvested our contender beans. We did a chop and drop, and now we have more contender beans coming up. On the back side of the garden over here, I have some more purple hull peas coming up. So I try to grow the things that are meant to grow in the heat. Amaranth is a good heat lover. They'll grow in the hottest of the summers, but it's a pseudo grain, and we'll let this go until the grains start to come out, and we can use this as a cereal. We can eat the leaves as a spinach, and then we could do a chop and drop. Flea beetles are a favorite of eggplants. But look how beautiful the eggplants are. Not saying that there are no flea beetle attacks on it, because there are. And you can see a little few holes here, but they seem to prefer the amaranth over the eggplants. So that's why I'm able to still get eggplants. My eggplants are still going well. Come over here, you still got some more of our amaranth here, and they'll start getting tassels going all the way down. You'll start seeing these draping all down. And we'll collect these. Now, the amaranth seeds are very high in phosphorus. Now, why does that make sense to me? Because I could use my coffee grinder, and I'll take this entire pod, put it into the coffee grinder and grind that up, and there is my phosphorus. So most of the plants that we grow, like the comfreys, they're very good in nitrogen. So this is something that I use to boost that phosphorus. You can grind these down, powder them up, the flowers along with the seeds, and it adds to the phosphorus of whatever organic fertilizers you're doing. So my theme for next year going into the garden is going to be trying to be 100% self-sufficient with the fertilizers that I grow myself. Just trying some different things around here. I'm going to take you over here.
Shanico says Mexican sunflowers on my gold wish list.
Yes, Mexican sunflower. You have to have some Mexican sunflower. Matter of fact, I have one over here. Tithonia diversifolia is what this is called. And you can see she's just putting off roots everywhere. This plant is not for the lazy gardener. I'm gonna tell you that right off the rip. This little branch right here was just a cutting. No roots on it or anything. I stuck it in the ground and it just took off. So from there, I can take cuttings from this, just stick it in the ground, and you can make as many plants as you want. It is sterile. It forms clumps on the roots. And the way that this does spread and the way that it can be out of control is if these branches touch the ground, given within probably 24 to 48 hours, they'll start to make roots. And you're growing the Mexican sunflower, that's something that you definitely want to keep in mind. And these are rootstock for my plum trees. So I see a lot of people like doing air layering on their plum trees. If you do not have the rootstock, then you're going to be growing an inferior plum tree. So that's
Yeah.
why I have these. You see, she's starting to get her color. Those are black cherries there. And more groceries over here that needs to be harvested. That's the beautiful part about coming out here in the garden. Every day is something to be picked.
You have CPT and fantastic. So glad you live stream popped up. My wife and I just had a great first season growing blueberry.
Oh
Thank
yeah,
you for your guide. Thank you for all your education, sir.
I really appreciate that. And I thank you guys for showing up. And we got some more of our eggplant. Now these are good for dips. My daughter makes this great uh, eggplant dip. You won't even miss guacamole. This is an alternative. You can do the eggplant dip, basically put them in the oven, punch you some holes in it. When it collapses, you get that
I mean,
the inside out of it, and you
uh,
can make you a really good dip. Create you a hummus. So it's a lot of things that we can do. We just have to start changing our habits and the way that we eat things.
any blueberry grafting going on.
You don't have to graft blueberries. Blueberries are taking as cuttings. We'll go over here to the blueberries. You can come down here and cut your blueberries all the way down to the soil level, and the blueberries will grow back true to type every time. Blueberries are not grafted. All of these are cuttings that I did last year. These are sweethearts. These four are sweethearts. This is something that I was telling people too. These are the same age. I did the cuttings the same time I did these. These are channelers and they're grown from seed. This is the difference. You see how mature these plants look? You got new growth coming in on them. They fruited this year. The channelers are going on 2 years. They're the same age as these four plants here. I planted these four at the same time, the seeds. But you see how immature these plants look? How straggly they are. They couldn't hold any berries even if they wanted to. Still have some thin, look how thin those pieces are. This is why I tell people it's not even worth it to grow any blueberries from seed. At least 3 years before you even see any fruit off of these.
Baby G say, how do you fight off ants?
I don't fight off ants. The ants are one of your good aerators in your garden. I don't know why. I mean, if the ants aren't bothering you in your garden bed, I don't know why you would want to get rid of the ants. The ants are going to be your best aerators, and that allows water to penetrate into the soil, and your roots are going to benefit from that. Um, but one way that you can deal with ants, you can use borax and sugar. Just mix in a little borax detergent and sugar. That's an organic means. Also, you can do orange oil. Orange oil to basically run them from there to strip the exoskeleton off the ants and leave them vulnerable, and the crickets will get the ants after that. But I don't really fuss about the ants in my beds. As a matter of fact, a lot of times I'll get ants in the blueberry beds and I don't even fool with it because, again, that allows that water to get down to the roots.
Say, caught a glimpse of those yellow bell pepper.
Okay. The yellow, these are Hungarian wax peppers. You know, some people call them banana peppers, and I guess that's what they are, but they're Hungarian wax peppers. And they'll basically look like this, and then they'll just start turning. Once they start turning, they'll get a little bit of heat on them, really mild. We like putting these in spaghettis. I mean, we put these in everything. So I have these growing pretty much everywhere around the garden. And they're another one that handles that heat pretty well. You can see how well the plant is still doing And this is 95, 96 degrees. The other day we had a heat index of 106, and they do very well. And this is another one of those beds where if you look down here, you see how all that mulch I have down here? You see how dark the mulch starts looking? That's 3 inches of mulch. And then you come down, you see how dark the soil look. Even with these hot days, see how dark that soil looks? That's moisture there. You see that, how that balls up? This is the reason why you want to keep that mulch on the bed. I do all my bulbs. This is cypress mulch here. And I try to do at least 3 inches of mulch on all my beds. And that's because the arbuscular fungi that colonizes let me see if I can find some here. You see that white on there? That's arbuscular fungi. And most of us will call it mycelium, but mycelium is actually the hyphae that's there, but on the end of that hyphae is the fungi. The fungi is the arbuscular, and that's where your plants are going to tap into the soil, and they basically give an extension of your roots and allow the phosphorus that's already in your soil to be uptaken by the plants. Let me see if I can just dig. But you see how dark that is as I dig in it? And you can see, so you see the white mixed in of that? You see that white right there? That's mycelium. You see all the white looks like paint or spider webs. That's mycelium, which is the actual hyphae network. But the fungus is actually called arbuscular fungi. And that's the one that you want in that mulch because that's what your plants are going to tap into and they're going to be able to pull that phosphorus out of the soil. The air has 75% nitrogen in it. If I were to pull any of these plants up, you're going to see root nodules on every one of these plants because all of my beds have been inoculated with the leguminosum bacteria, and that's a rhizobium. So I use a lot of the fungi and bacterias to grow my job. It just makes my job so much easier. Yeah.
You got Caroline Roberts. I found your channel a few weeks ago, and I really enjoy seeing you what you grow and how you grow.
Caroline
She's from
Roberts.
Alabama. I can't relate it.
Okay, Carolina Roberts. Thank you for chiming in. And that's Alabama. That's the neighbor, Zone 8A right here, Georgia. Like I said, man, for me, this whole gardening thing it's more of a lifestyle because once I got the wifey and the family on to the program that I'm doing right now, it just makes so much sense. So you see, we're pulling tomatoes off, eggplant off. If I were to take these in the house today, the meal becomes eggplants and tomatoes. So this is one of the ways that we're saving a whole lot of the grocery store tabs by not just taking this stuff and taking it in the house, we're adjusting our eating cycles.
Spirit filled spring. Your knowledge level on this is amazing. Did you go to school? How do you learn all this?
Trial and error a lot. I do a lot of research, studying, uh, questions that you guys ask. For the most part, I love doing research. I love learning why things work, not just how to make it grow, but why does it grow. You hear a lot of the things like myths on YouTube or the internet about how things grow and what it does. Well, I like to research those things and find what is true about it or what is not true about it. But oftentimes you'll find the jewels hidden in that, just like growing the uh, peanuts. You heard everybody talking about the nodules on the roots and how they fix nitrogen from the air, and then you don't have to fertilize. Well, I wanted to know how it does, so I started growing peanuts. And from the peanuts, I started growing my beans like that. And I used that same leguminosum bacteria to grow all of my legumes. So I really don't have to do it. Once I prep my bed at the beginning of the season, I don't have to do a whole lot more to the bed after that. So it's to me, it's all fascinating. You know what I mean? Just the whole journey of learning how to grow. That's what I grow. I don't grow for this that's in my hand. I grow based upon the knowledge that goes into learning how to grow, because once you learn how to grow, you can grow anything. So I don't focus on any one particular plant.
Yeah, Lauren Gosh's just asked, what kind of whey do you use?
Whey,
Hmm.
whey is milk. Go up there and get that jug. It's right there by my grow table. Thank you, sir. This right here, this is the perfect example. You see the curds that are floating at the top here? It's like a cheese, and then all of this down here is like a cloudy water. That's the way, that's the separation. And what this is the solids of the milk separating. And this is the way. I take 50-50 of this with distilled water or rainwater. You do not want to use tap water, because what this is cultured bacteria. It's what they call a lactobacillus, or labs, as a lot of people want to call it. But basically, what this does is it blankets your leaves and keeps any other spores from colonizing those leaves. So even when you come over here and you look at my blueberry bushes, this is the main thing that I use them on, because if you grow blueberries, you know you're going to have like diseases like septoria or anthracnose. You can use this on your squash plants. You can use it on your cucumber plants. Because if you go over here, you're not going to see any powdery mildew. And somebody told me there's no way that you can get rid of powdery mildew. I'm not trying to get rid of the powdery mildew. I just don't want it on my plants. So one of the ways to make sure that you lessen that attachment to your plants is making sure that you have no bare soil throughout your garden. None of my garden areas, no matter what bed you go to, you're not going to see any bare soil. And that's one of the things that I try to place emphasis on. You have to cover that soil, because when the spores splash up, like especially for tomatoes, they get onto your plants, and then now that's where you're going to get your powdery mildews from.
T asks, what's the best way to stop tomatoes from splitting during ripening? Also, what do you use to prep your beds?
T,
Yes.
okay, T asked, what's the best way to keep your tomatoes from splitting? We're going to go back over here and show you again. I'm going to give you a perfect example. The best way to keep your tomato from splitting is removing them before they ripen. This is called the breaker stage. And it's called the breaker stage for that exact reason. The breaker stage is once it starts getting its color, and most of us call it blushing. And what that is a ethylene gas that's grown inside of the tomato. Once that ethylene gas is in this tomato, it has everything that it needs to ripen itself. It no longer needs to plant. Matter of fact, the longer you leave it on the plant, it'll send signals back to your plant to tell it to slow down production. So that's why you really don't want to leave your tomatoes on the plants till they turn all the way red or all the way ripe. You want to remove them in the breaker stage.
This is the Y for me said, do you use kaolin clay in your garden?
Yes, I do. It's the why for me asked if I use kale and clay in the garden. If you go to growingoutthebox.com, I actually sell kale and clay. Kale and clay is what do they call mined right here in Georgia, down in South Georgia. There's a company that I go to down, which is right outside of Warner Robins, and I get the kale and clay from there. But if you want the kale and clay, not the surround that they're selling you for $30, $40 online, I actually have the original kale and clay that's grown or harvested right here from the rivers or lakes right here in Georgia, mid Georgia, central Georgia is where that kale and clay comes from. So I do have it on growingoutthebox.com, kale and clay. Now you could use the kale and clay on your fruit trees. It'll help with the Japanese beetle and things like that. But the only negative to the kale and clay is you have to keep reapplying it.
Tidal said, thank you for the knowledge, time, and energy and hospitality you all put into this channel. You have really inspired me, and your tips have really made a difference in my garden.
And who is that?
Tidal.
Tydale?
Yeah, Tidal.
Tadale. Okay, up in New York. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Tadale. Appreciate you for coming into the live. Tadell, let me know if you're the same Tydell, Tydell,
Mm.
up in New York that bought, I think he bought raised beds from me, uh, maybe even some fruit trees. But I think Tadell might be one of my best customers right there. I think that's who that is, and I'm hoping that is. If it is, I really appreciate you. Just give me a thumbs up and say, yes, you are that customer because you're one of my best customers, and I really appreciate you shopping with growingoutthebox.com. Very patient. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Mimi asks, where did you get your netting and base?
I'm assuming that you're talking about the squash cage. We'll walk back over there. Um, the squash cage, you can get it off of Amazon. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, and I've been dealing with the vendors on this, and this is one of the reasons why they sent this to me to try it out. And before I say anything about the quality of a product, I'm going to put it in my garden and I'm going to test it out. The the fittings on this thing is garbage. So I'm going to keep it 100 with you. The fittings on this is garbage. But in order for the manufacturer to redeem themselves, I'm going to start having just the netting. I love the netting. I did put a little extra into this, but the reason for that is because this can also second as a greenhouse during the winter time. So all I got to do is just put some plastic over this and it can second as a greenhouse during the winter time. So I'm always thinking down the road and this is solid. So what I'm doing now is letting this dry out and then we're going to stain it to match the rest of the garden. And it'll also go with my grapevine trellises over here. So I still have two more of the sections to build for my grapevine trellises. But I love the netting. Going back to your point on this, I love the netting. But the fittings on this, they're plastic, garbage, straight garbage. And these are $119 on Amazon. I still think it's worth it, but if you're buying it just as a standalone, I don't think you'll be happy with it. If you have an idea for securing it in something like this here where it doesn't blow over, and if you look down here, it has like these little tracks on the edge of it. It has these little tracks all the way going around the edge, all the way going around the edge. So the way that I did that is I basically put these eggshell rocks over the whole outside, and that secures it from being able to flip over. But I love the netting. The the fitting, the hardware on it is garbage. And I'm saying that real out loud. I hope the manufacturer is watching this because you should have just sold the netting by itself if you're going to sit in that garbage that ain't going to last a week. Because I think on the same day that I was installing this, one of the fittings broke. So I would not recommend buying this unless you're buying it strictly for the netting.
Shawnee Grows, do you have specific clothes you wear in the garden?
Shawnee Grows asked if I have specific clothes that I wear in the garden. Are you talking about for the show or for the garden? Because I'm a different person when I'm doing the garden. As you can see, I like to, dress and put on clothes when I'm doing the show. But when I'm out here building, oh yeah, I get dirty. I call those dirty days. And I got a few videos where it's showing me out here. I have my camo hat on. Uh, they got my little work pants, my big work boots with the steel toes. So I get dirty. I don't show those videos often because people generally don't want to watch those videos. So I don't really show them. They just want to see the garden when it's all neat and see the groceries growing. People don't want to see me dirty out here in the garden. I don't know if it's something like that for some other gardeners, but for me personally, those videos just get no traction. They just want to see the pretty stuff.
JD Lives or JD Lives says, have you thought about getting some beehives?
JD Lives asked if I was thinking about getting beehives. My neighbor 2 doors down had bees. Mr. JT, he passed away a couple of years ago. It's something that I thought about, but I don't want to get too far into too many different projects because I'm really still building the garden. Once I get to a point to where I feel like all these areas are filled in, because you see I got a lot of open space here and around, I want to be able to, you see how this little walk path here, This is basically all I want going throughout the whole garden. I just want paths. So all of these open spaces here, I want to be able to fill those in. So before I get into a whole nother project, because like my wife was talking about getting chickens next year, that's a possibility. We may be getting chickens next year. But going back to that same point, when you get chickens, now we got something else to tend to, and I'm still growing the garden itself, the structure, the infrastructure of the garden. So once I get to a point to where the garden has its infrastructure, then I'll start thinking about bees and maybe chickens.
Mimi said, "How do I keep rabbits, groundhogs, moles out of my garden? They nibble to nuts."
Moles, I don't know if you want to turn that camera around. I'm gonna show you my mold protection. That's my mold protection right there. That's my squirrel protection. That's my chipmunk protection. That's Marcelo. This is his garden. He runs this out here. And he knows where to go. He'll do that little squat that he's doing right there, and he'll just sit out here all day and wait for something to move. He controls the garden. As far as rabbits go, we got a family of hawks that live in this tree. Let's see, I think I may have just heard it. We got a family of hawks that live in this tree, and in the top of this tree over here, there's another family of hawks. So ain't nothing going across that open field that's going to get touched. So rabbits and all of that, we don't have that problem over here. So next question. Next question.
They say at some point, will you allow your follower to tour your garden land?
Uh, I don't know about that one.
Uh,
This said somebody asked, who was that?
Lane,
Who?
Lane.
Lane.
Mm-hmm.
Lane asked, at some point, will I be doing garden tours? I don't know. Yeah, I don't think my wife would go for that. Because a lot of times when I'm out here filming, she be like, "You giving too much information already." So I don't know if I'll be able to do a garden tour. I did have an idea because I was speaking with some educators on maybe I would be open to bringing some kids in. I think that would be a little more along the lines of something that I would be interested in and dealing with kids because I don't know. I just like dealing with the youth. So no, I don't know if I'd be doing any open garden tours.
Ivy Castle Gardens. Do you sell anything for ants on your website? Ants and mosquitoes are making it hard to start my garden.
Okay. Who's that?
Ivy Castle Gardens.
Ivy Castle Garden asked if I have anything for ants and mosquitoes. I'm gonna tell you one of the easiest things, and you notice we're out here and ain't nobody swapping. Let me take you over here and show you something. Catch this. Let me show you something that works for me. Now, I don't know if it works for everybody, but it works for me. When I come out in the garden in the morning, rosemary. This is, I started to say, I don't know what I started to say. I stroke the rosemary every morning, but this is, this is one of my rosemary bushes. And if you do this, you'll feel that oil on your hands. This is how I do. I use this every single day. And you can actually feel and smell that. Yep. This is what I do. This is rosemary. Rosemary is a natural mosquito repellent. Now it's not gonna do what the insect sprays you get out of the stores do. You know it won't. But I put this all over me, and you can. It has a really good smell. I don't have on any insect spray on my legs or anything, and my mosquitoes are terrible over here. But it gives you a nice little soft, oily feel on your skin. I have another one down here, and I was going to show you guys how I prune my rosemary. That was going to be one of my videos for next week on how I prune. But yeah, this is what I do. I take my rosemary, and every morning when I come out, every evening I come out, I just run my hands up and down it like this. and she likes to be touched. How do I know she likes to be touched? Because she just, oh man, that smells so good. And I put it all over. Rosemary. This is what I do. Now, another way that you can help with the mosquitoes, coffee grounds. Now, you take the coffee grounds and you light the coffee grounds and it smolders. Um, I, I don't have to get it, but yeah, coffee grounds. Use coffee grounds. If you put enough heat to that coffee grounds, get you a flame and get it to smoldering, it pretty much acts like a biochar. It has a really slow burn and it'll smolder and the mosquitoes will go away. Man, that rosemary smells so good. I mean, it really just lit up the whole, but that's what you do. You activating the oils in your rosemary plant when you come out and it just gives off that scent. And then your hand gets that oil on it and I just rub it all over my body. And it's, you see that shine now? That's all the rosemary. That's what I do. I just wipe that rosemary on. Now my wife says it's something about the mosquitoes. They just don't bother me anyway. I don't know, but this is what I do every day that I come out, and I do this every day. So maybe that has a whole lot to do with it. I put that on, and it makes your skin feel so soft. Just rubbing that rosemary on.
Made by Tammy, Cheryl. Would the chickens be for eggs or will they be for meat?
Made by Tammy Sherrill asks, would the chicken be for eggs or would they be for eating? They would be for eggs. Um, I'm not the I don't know. I can't see myself harvesting something that I had and had some life into it. I can't see that part of it. But I think the eggs would be a good benefit to it. Matter of fact, that's part of the fertilization regimen that I use on my rosemary. You hear a lot of people say,
You got cat dog in the
how,
kitchen.
you see cat dog back there. But that's part of what I've used spring, midsummer on my rosemary. I put coffee grounds and eggshells, and that's how I fertilize my rosemary. So no, uh, I would not harvest, and I say that kindly. I would not harvest my birds. No.
Nicole King, did you take a master gardening course?
Nicole King asked, "Did I take a master gardening course?" My master gardening course was called 2020, and we all know how that went in 2020. 2020 for me was an eye opener. You know, we had our neighborhood watch meeting back in 2020 when everything was kind of going haywire. And of course, everybody was thinking worst case scenario. The one thing that we didn't have, we had arms, we had two-way radios to where we can communicate with each other if the grid went down for whatever reason we were thinking. But what we did not have was not one person in our entire subdivision. We had back here Mr. Ed who passed away. How long Mr. Ed's been passed? Maybe 4 years now? 5 years maybe? Mr. Ed used to have his entire backyard full of corn. I mean, he had pretty much everything back there. But Mr. Ed passed away a couple of years ago. And during the pandemic, we realized that no one had anything growing in their yards. So that was the turning point for me. And that's really when I decided that I wanted to do the garden. I got sick in 2020. And it changed my whole perspective on how I approach life. And that was the start of this whole thing. 2020 was, and it's crazy because my wife and my son, who are out with me right now, these two beds right here were the very first two beds that they planted. They put these two beds together. These are my black beans here. They need to be harvested. But Grow Family Network, King over on Grow Family Network, they showed these little Home Depot bricks right here. And when I was sick in 2020, and I got really sick in 2020, my wife and my son went to Lowe's or Home Depot, one or the other, and they brought those back. And they said, you said you wanted to start a garden? Let's do it. We were all off during that time because everything had shut down in 2020. We had a little time, but this bed And that first one over there, those were our first two beds in the garden. And my wife and my son put those together. That's how weak I was, watching my son and my wife do the labor that I should be doing. And that to me, as a man's man, and I say that with no prejudice towards anybody for whatever lifestyle that you live, but as a man's man, to watch my son and my wife do what I should be doing for them, looking out and providing for them, that was one of the weakest moments in my life personally. Something that I went through that changed my whole perspective. You think about, you work good, got money in the bank, credit cards, but something like 2020 really let me know that you're really not prepared as you really thought you were. So to be able to combat that, that's how this started. 2020, I started dibbing in the garden, but 2021, I got a little more serious. 2022 is when I met Miss Linda, the New Orleans gardener, and I kind of rocked with her for a little while. I learned a whole lot by just hanging out with her in the chats over there. That's the New Orleans gardener, Miss Linda. And I used to do car shows every week. I don't do car shows anymore. I got cars that I haven't been pulled out the garage in the last 4 or 5 years because I changed. I changed. My circumstances changed and I changed. And I don't think I'll ever go back to that lifestyle. I like enjoying myself, but this has become my sanctuary, coming out here in the garden and just being a part of what I know is security in my life. Worst case scenario, if the lights go out, the water's turned off, I know how to filter water. I know how to grow food. My biggest thing right now is how much can I learn how to grow? And that is what this whole garden about. Not what I can grow, but how much can I learn to grow?
Jack Smith asks if you could give a single piece of advice to someone just starting out, what would that be?
Grow what it is that your family love to eat. And who was that?
Jack Smith.
Jack Smith asked if there was one single thing to start gardening or some advice to give if you were starting your garden. Grow the things that your family likes to eat. My family likes to eat beans. We don't really eat beef or pork. Matter of fact, we don't eat beef or pork. So beans, that's our protein. I grow lots of beans. Peppers, we eat lots of salads. Just grow what it is that your family likes to eat. That makes it so much simpler. And there's no greater blessing than being able to put food on the table and watch your family say for the first time, it tastes different. And that's just not something that they're saying, the placebo effect of you growing. The food tastes different. If you're growing organically, and everything out here, like I say, I'm growing organically as best I can. Um, I'm growing my own fertilizers now. I'm growing, uh, it's just so, I get excited when I come out here on the garden. This is how I start my day. And as the sun goes down, this is how I end my day. But this is the life that I breathe. It's a lifestyle. So yeah.
Shawnee Groves asks, do you practice vermiculture, worm farming?
I do have in my composting area, I allow the worms to come up into that. Part of what I do, especially for my beans and things like that. Shawnee Groves asks, do I practice vermicomposting? I do my own composting. That's what the Mexican sunflower is about. That's what the amaranth is about. You can see some more amaranth coming up back there. Uh, the legumes, chop and drop on the legumes. Everything is about cycling in the garden. And you can hear you hear our hawk. That's why we don't worry about the rabbits out here. But vermicomposting, I allow, and I take those little bits of the vermicompost and I add it. You don't need to fill your whole bed up with those things. You just want the bacteria that goes along with that. And that's one of the things that I like using too.
Miss MJ, is there an organic fertilizer you recommend?
Miss MJ,
Yeah.
uh, For me, I like to customize a lot of my stuff. I like the Espoma brand. I'm not paid by Espoma, but I do like the Espoma brand. Garden Tone is a good neutral, all purpose fertilizer. I use Garden Tone a lot of times, but especially I just use the Garden Tone on my sweet potatoes in the back. That's a good low nitrogen. I think it's uh, a 433 or something like that on the Garden Tone, but it's a good all-purpose fertilizer. But what I really am into is creating my own fertilizers. So yeah, that's I want to be able to create my own fertilizers, and that's what the Mexican sunflowers, Tavernia diversifolia, the Amaranth, taking those leaves. I can take these stalks and run these through at the end of the season. I have a whole bed of these over here. You take the whole stalk and run it down into my mulcher, and all of this becomes mulch. This is good nutrients that go right back into the soil, and this has probably a 5% nitrogen in these in the amaranths. So yeah, all of this gets used, it gets mulched back in and put back into the garden. So we're just trying to cycle. So yeah, Espoma is a good brand for organic gardening. I highly recommend the Espoma now. You can go to Tractor Supply, and Tractor Supply has a large 40-pound bag of alfalfa pellets. Alfalfa pellets has a compound in it called tricontinol. Excellent for seed starting. You put that into your garden beds, mix it into your soil, do your compost drench in the soil, adds the worms will just come. The worms will just come. And I go over here and I see, you see how dark the soil is? There is no light soil around my garden because everything's covered. You see this? That's allowing the plants to cycle themselves. Yeah, that's allowing the plants to cycle themselves.
You got Sleepy Grove Farm. You made a new fam out there from Oregon. Because
Okay.
of you, I start my own garden. Thank you.
Okay, and who is that?
Sleepy Grove Farm.
Sleepy Groove?
Farm.
Sleepy Groove Farm says he's in Oregon and he started his garden by watching growing out the box, and I appreciate that. That is really why I do this, man. You know, there's a negative cliche that people use where they say you do it for the gram. Well, I'm taking that back. I do it for the gram. I do this for the gram. I show the garden for you guys. I want to be able to share this so we can all grow together. And that's just not a cliche that I use. And the blessings keep coming from the more I give. And it's 23:5. I like to quote, my cup runneth over. You know, I try to share everything that I have. And that's not just in the garden, that's just in life in general. And that's how I've been able to make it from day one to where I am right now. It's just sharing whatever it is that I have because, you know, I'm always provided for. I know how to go out and get things and make things happen. Just like with the garden, you know, we go through the 2020 little situation. I come out here, I start focusing on what it is I want to do with this garden. And now we have 200 and we're approaching 225,000 on YouTube. We just crossed 300,000 on Facebook. We just crossed 350,000 on Instagram. We're 74,000 on TikTok. So we're almost at 1 million followers in less than 3 years of doing this. That's something bigger than me happening. So I owe that to you guys. And this is not possible without you. And that's once again me saying, by me sharing everything that I have, as I learn it, I'm putting it back out there. So it's not like I've been to this university and gathered all of this information and then all of a sudden I want to garden. If I learn something different about a plant today, I'm sharing it tomorrow. If I know that the evidence is there to back it up, I'm sharing it tomorrow and it always comes back. 23:5, my cup runneth over. So we're going to wrap this up now. I appreciate you guys coming out, hanging out with me.
Bye.
I can't hear you, darling. You got to
Say
speak up.
thank you to all your moderator.
Okay. All of my moderators, I'm not sure who's in the book. I think Mike's Chaotic Gardening is in there. I'm almost sure Nikki was in there, the OCDist chick. Shawnee Groves, thank you, Shawnee Groves, for coming in. Um, I appreciate Broke Farmer. Thanks for coming in, man. I appreciate you.
Mike.
Mike, I said Mike's Chaotic Gardening. So again, we're gonna keep doing these lives. We're gonna figure out how to get it going. We kind of messed up a little bit today because Tammy is usually my my audio moderator, and somehow I sent her the wrong link, so she wasn't able to get into the chat, and then I would have to go in and figure some things out. But we're gonna do this more often. I'm trying to figure out the best time of day, whether it be mornings, like 7 o'clock in the evenings. You guys let me know in the comments below. So if you're watching this on the replay, let me know in the comments below what's a good time. Would it be a Saturday morning? Would it be a late evenings, like in the 7 o'clock hour when everybody's winding down? I want to be able to make this comfortable for you so we all are in this together. Growing out the box. Peace.